Nostalgicast.
All right. Do you feel some type of way about all these reboots and remakes of your favorite childhood properties that are constantly being announced? Do you want to be kept up to date with all of the best pop culture news about nostalgia from the 80s, 90s, and beyond? This is Nostalgicast, your weekly roundup of the best and most up-to-date nostalgic news, where we discuss the stories and give our thoughts.
Give your thoughts.
That's the first time I've been able to get through that in a while. My rule of thumb is that I just try to do the whole thing, and I stop the moment that I mess up or somebody interrupts me. I'm your host, whose Spurs come in by the window, Andrew Price. Il Buono, Tyler Palo. Il Bruto, Kelby Joseph. Il Cattivo, Louis Elvius. And Dad Beats, a.k.a. Kirk Pinchon.
Dad Beats!
Can't touch this.
All right.
Yo, what does that mean?
I was trying to figure that out.
I don't want to tell you because it's not meant to be insulting. It's just meant to be thematic. It is Italian for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh,
but I don't mean that Louis is ugly.
I was the good?
It wasn't. The things weren't tied to you, actually. It was just a thematic thing.
Gotcha. What was yours, though? What was yours, the spur?
It was a quote from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, okay.
Eli Wallach, he says, there are two types of spurs. The type that come in by the door and the type that come in by the window.
Oh, okay. That's dope.
What's a spur that comes into the window?
Yeah.
Somebody sneaking in to kill you.
We all learned something today.
Right.
Yeah, so before we get into the stories, first of all, corrections. This is like one of the most embarrassing, ridiculous mistakes that I've made, which is, once again, just a total slip of the tongue. Anybody who listened to that last episode, which, by the way, the last episode, if you listen to it, you noticed that it sounded like we were recording it on a Talkboy. And
very old, very nostalgic.
We lost the recording for last week's episode, and we ended up having to use the audio from the cameras that we used to film each episode, which, at least we didn't totally lose the episode and it was just lost in the ether, but it did not sound good because of that fact. So sorry about that. But also, we were talking for a while about it came up during the James Dean conversation. We were talking about the fact that the porn star James Dean was in this movie with Lindsay Lohan, and I started talking about it, and I was saying that the movie was written by Paul Schaefer, who is the guy who wrote Taxi Driver, and Paul Schaefer is the band leader from the Late Show with Late Night with David Letterman, the bald guy.
Yeah.
Which was just me.
He makes canyons now.
Which was just me in the moment just misspeaking. Yeah, the real guy is Paul Schrader. And I just said Paul Schaefer on accident.
It would have been cool if it was Paul Schaefer.
Which was just
Paul Schaefer
ridiculous.
does this fucked up directorial debut.
That was a good movie, though. I kind of liked it.
The Lindsay Lohan, you saw it?
Yeah, I definitely watched it.
Wow.
I didn't pay for it, but I watched it.
You should.
Well, he's a James Dean fan, though.
Who isn't?
James D-E-E-N. That Dean. That's how he spells his name.
Don't lie.
The
You're sitting over here shaking your
The
head.
2 E's?
Yeah, he's an actor. He was the one who was in that Lindsay Lohan movie. James Dean.
I've never seen any of his work. The only reason I know of him is because he was like, there was a thing that I just read. I think it was just like random BuzzFeed articles or whatever about how he was like the feminist porn star or something like that.
That makes sense.
So, top of the show, before we get into the stories, I wanted to talk about a story that came up, a little bit of a sensitive subject matter. You got to tread lightly on this one. We could all get canceled if we don't address this properly.
Okay.
So don't go on one of your rants about old people.
I think you're being rude. My rants about old people are fine. Uncancelable.
No, they're not. They're specifically not.
I think
Tyler
it's
might
called
be safe now.
ageism.
You might be safe because OK Boom is a
I'm
thing
not-
now, so
Yeah.
he's not gonna get canceled.
Exactly.
A couple days ago, on November 12th, Disney Plus launched. Huge streaming service. We talked about it on the podcast several times. I bought a 3-year subscription to it because it was a really great deal that I found a couple months ago, and I got it so that we could watch all kinds of stuff with my son. Story that came out after the thing was out for a while. It was going massively viral. People were talking about all kinds of stuff about it. I think the result is exactly what Disney wanted. It became a huge cultural event. And one of the things that was pointed out was that on a lot of their older back catalog of content, they put a content warning on some of the older stuff. The content warning that was added to some of these older Disney movies and shows, mostly movies and shorts, was this program is presented as originally created. It may contain outdated cultural depictions. So this was put on some old content. For example, on Dumbo, if you haven't seen the movie Dumbo or you haven't seen it in a while, there are some racially insensitive characters in the movie. They are these black crows who are basically characterized as a bunch of like 1940s hipster jazz black guys.
I like it.
Hipster in the old sense. It was a racially insensitive stereotype character that these crows were depicted as. In the movie Peter Pan, whenever they go to Neverland, there are these Native American characters who are very kind of like stereotypical Indian characters. And there's tons of examples of this. I mean, these old cartoons from the 30s through even upwards into the 70s, but largely in the 30s through the 50s, they played a lot with racial caricatures and stereotypes. And this is getting even deeper than I think a lot of people even realize, or, they certainly didn't account for this in these trigger warnings or these content warnings, but like even characters like Mickey Mouse are based on racially insensitive minstrel caricatures. Like the whole like black cartoon character with the white gloves is based on minstrel shows. So these cartoons all have like deep roots in sort of racially insensitive depictions. And there's a lot of this throughout all these cartoons, whether it's Disney or Looney Tunes or like Felix the Cat or Tom and Jerry or whatever. This was just a common part of the vernacular for comedy back in this time, was these racially insensitive caricatures. And, so these exist, and now they have these cartoons and these movies on this streaming service, and, they've got to acknowledge it in some way. So they have this little content warning that's basically saying, this is going to have some stuff that was a sign of the times that we don't necessarily stand by, but we're presenting it as it was originally created. And obviously a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about this.
What are the people saying?
Well, there's three factions.
Okay.
So there are people who are like, oh, like these sensitive snowflake millennials who just like can't take a joke anymore and like are offended by everything, and like these are classics, like this is just how things were, and people just can't take a joke anymore. There are people who think it's not, that it hasn't gone far enough, and that these things need to be altered or taken out of the movies. And that this is just such a cop-out, and it's like Disney just trying to cover their ass, and they haven't done enough to answer for the cultural injustices of their content in the past. Yeah. And then there are people who are like, this is the perfect way to address this. And I think, to give it a little more context, I mean, me personally, I'm more in that third camp, but I think that their content warning it's too brief, and it doesn't address it enough. And to use another example, so several years ago there was another controversy because Warner Brothers started having their content available on streaming services, and they had a similar content warning, but theirs was much better. So this was Warner Brothers content warning that they added in front of some of their old Looney Tunes cartoons and Tom and Jerry. And Tom and Jerry is notable because the earliest Tom and Jerry, back when it was Tom used to be named Jasper, and the mouse didn't have a name, and it was before they sort of got canonized as Tom and Jerry. Originally, Tom and Jerry was about this cat who was lived in this house with this like basically like a mammy black
Yeah.
stereotype character who you never saw her head. You only saw like her body, and she would run around hitting him with a broom, and it was like, you know, super racist.
Yeah.
And so in the beginning of these cartoons, they added this trigger warning or this content warning. I keep saying trigger warning, but it's not a trigger warning. It's a content warning.
What's a trigger warning?
A trigger warning is whenever you're like, there's going to be some things in this that may, if you have certain conditions, if you've experienced
if you have
certain
epilepsy
traumas or
something.
whatever, this might harm you in some way, and you might not want to watch this.
Got it.
This is not that. This is just warning you that there are going to be some things in this that are
Offensive,
an example of a previous time. So the Warner Brothers one was the cartoons you were about to see may depict some ethnic and racial prejudices that were commonplace in American society. Such depictions were wrong then and are wrong today. While not representing the Warner Brothers' view of today's society, these shorts are being presented as they were originally created because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. So this like really thoroughly addresses it because it's
That
like
is well done.
yeah, because you know I agree. I mean, on one level I agree. There's a whole other level where you say like, you know, maybe these just shouldn't be preserved. Like maybe we should just allow these to die in the annals of history or whatever. I don't know. I don't think that's not my opinion, but you know, definitely some people think that like these things just need to go away and they just need to be removed or excised from pop culture. I don't think that. But I also definitely don't think that they should be re-released edited where they've taken these things out.
Right,
because
right,
like it
right.
says in the Warner Brother warning, you're basically just pretending like this never happened. It's like it's whitewashing. It's like it's just it's sanitizing history and saying like, yeah, we never said racist stuff.
Yep.
And I think that's just as harmful as pretending like it's not offensive.
Yeah,
or-
you got to leave it the way it is because if you change it, no one is ever going to know what to do moving on. If that makes any sense. If you don't know where you're coming from, you'll probably just redo it later on. So
Is there anything to say about maybe not showing those things anymore?
No, that's horrible.
And saying, we know we had this past, we're not denying it, but we're also not going to profit from it anymore by showing you our old footage.
No, they have to show it to you.
Why?
Because if people never see it, if people don't internalize it, if it doesn't get inside of your mind that this is what was happening, you'll redo it.
Yeah, I mean to
It's
get
in-
So wait. You say if they don't replay these old racist cartoons, they'll inevitably make more racist cartoons?
Absolutely.
I don't think so.
100%.
No, it's
Yeah,
because it was
it's
society.
not about
It was
it's not
society
about
at the
them
time
making
being
more
okay
racist.
with it.
It's not about them making more racist cartoons. It's the fact that we have to see and acknowledge history in order to learn from it and not repeat it.
Okay, but it's not the same. I 100% agree with what you just said. I'm not trying to deny that. What I'm saying is showing these things doesn't help us not create racist cartoons anymore. We know that creating these racist cartoons are bad, and the times will show you that you're not allowed to make them, so you can't make them anymore.
Yeah, I don't agree at all because so as an example, there are a lot of cosplayers who white cosplayers. Some of them are just random people that blew up on Tumblr or whatever, and some of them are influencers or whatever that have an actual audience. And there's been several times where cosplayers have gotten into huge controversy because they have dressed as black characters, and in doing that cosplay, they have put blackface on. And one of the biggest ones is there was this thing that a lot of white cosplayers have wanted to cosplay as Garnet from Steven Universe, and so they have done that. They've dressed as Garnet, and they've worn the afro, and they've blacked their skin.
They black their skin.
Yeah, and
Oh, shit.
and the thing is that this have been huge controversies, and these people have been like raked through the coals. But the issue is that in a lot of these situations, these people just genuinely didn't know that they were doing anything wrong. They had no idea.
I'm really confused about how they can see a black character and know that it's a black
because they
character.
don't know that
They don't
blackface
know.
was a thing.
They don't
They
know
have
that
no
these-
idea.
Oh,
They don't know that
okay, I'm
these
sorry,
minstrel
I'm
shows
sorry.
existed,
Okay,
so
gotcha,
that
gotcha,
you have
gotcha.
to
Yes,
show
yes.
people the things that were happening in a different time so that you can watch it and say, all right, got
Again,
it, understood. This is what was happening at that time, and now that I have this inside of my head, everything is better now. we can
You
apply.
have
what
to
we
acknowledge
have
the
to.
things that have come
Again,
before
but-
in order to
but-
move forward in a progressive way.
I agree. You have to acknowledge that it's there, but what I'm saying, acknowledgement and showing are two different.
You have to
things.
show it.
Okay, but how? It's a hard thing to navigate because I agree with everything you guys said, blackface, all of that. Like, but how do you see a black character?
Don't yada yada yada.
No, I'm not
blackface.
yada yada black. What I'm saying is, what are we doing instead? What can we do instead of showing these terrible things and letting these companies profit from showing them? What can we do to teach people that blackface is wrong without showing them that all these people got to profit from blackface?
There's a difference. What will happen is you could tell somebody something, but if you don't see it, feel it, touch it for yourself, you'll never get it. You'll never get it. So
Wait, so how does that happen with the cartoons?
You have to see this thing.
Yeah.
You can't. It's too removed from reality to just.
But
To be like, oh, like there's this thing that used to happen and it's bad and like we can't do it anymore. And to not be confronted with the reality of it, just be told secondhand, like, oh, there's this thing we used to do and it's bad. It's just not good enough.
So then
Yeah.
they could make it educational.
that's
I
yeah.
kind of
Like, what
understand
about
what Tyler's
purely,
saying.
like
'cause
only educational
I think for
purposes?
them, the disclaimer is kind of
Yeah.
like, all right, we're gonna make money off of this, and so you guys don't come after us.
Yeah.
Here's this. We're gonna publicly acknowledge it, so we can move on and
I
don't
mean,
have to hear from
there's
it.
no doubt that as a company, Disney is just doing this because they just want to have this. They want to utilize this content that they have, but they want to cover their asses by being like, we don't believe in this. Like we're just telling you. There's no doubt in that. But secondarily, separate from that, because companies and corporations are never not going to be evil and out just for their own self-preservation, and they just want to make money. That's a constant. There's no, like, even the most like outwardly progressive, like we do all these things to help corporation, at the end of the day they are
big money bags.
yeah, anything that they've done to portray themselves as progressive is just to continue furthering their own wealth and profits.
Now,
There's
I mean,
no-
I think-
but
I
that-
think-
but-
I think
but
they can amplify it.
separately, culturally, as a byproduct, that is just parallel with them doing that. I think that it is important that these things are available for people to see and understand.
Especially
I
the
think they should
history of the
vary.
company, because if they come out with all this stuff and it's like, hey, we have this back catalog of just a bunch of old stuff, but they decide, yeah, we're not going to show Dumbo, kind of makes us look bad. Yeah, we're not going to show this, we're not going to show that. You're going to look at them a different kind of way.
Wait,
I'm not saying don't show
are
it,
the
but
crows in the new Dumbo?
I don't know.
Definitely not.
I didn't go watch it.
I haven't seen
Isn't
it.
that the same thing? Should we be?
But that's a remake, though. Like they're not going to be like that would be
not the
insane.
same
That would be
thing.
literally the opposite of what
But
we're
again,
saying.
we're
where
letting
they
them
didn't
we're
learn
letting them
from it.
profit off of old things and remake them into new ones without the racist stuff. That's eventually just going to be all they show. They're going to eventually.
No, definitely not. Nobody liked that Dumbo movie. Like that. Like they made that movie as a cash grab, but in
ain't
the
got no
annals of
cash.
history, that the Dumbo animated film is going to stand the test of time, and nobody's ever going to remember that Dumbo movie that they made.
I think the point you guys are making for them is not the point they're making for themselves. They're doing it to kind of protect themselves. If they wanted to be educational and go, look,
No,
this is the past,
they definitely
could have
don't.
made a documentary rolled out with it. Like,
yeah,
look,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is a
No, they definitely.
docu-series covering Dumbo, covering Peter Pan, covering this.
Yeah, they
This is
definitely.
Disney's history.
They definitely aren't doing that. But separately, that is my belief in why it's important to see these things. And
I guess-
as an example, so my son Ephraim, he's almost 3. He's gonna be 3 in February, and he has no concept of race. He doesn't know like when he comes to the office and he talks to everybody, like he has no concept that like you guys are black and then there's like white. He doesn't understand anything about that. He has no context for that. And I want it to be that way right now. I don't want him to even understand that at all, because I think, growing up, my as a kid, I mean, I grew up in eastern New Mexico, a very conservative part of the Southwest, and I grew up conditioned into a lot of racist beliefs and just normalized racism. And I think that from a very young age, I was conditioned by my surroundings to just see other races as something other than myself. You are different. And not even races, but like sexualities and all, and gender. Like, you are different than me. And I was institutionalized into that just baseline of belief. And it's something that I've had to, overcome. It's like a thing. It was like something that I was actively having to
Fight against.
Yeah, fight. It was a challenge from the moment that I was born until now to overcome this institutionalized systemic belief that you are different than me. Mm-hmm. So I don't want Ephraim to have a conception that there's a difference. However, when he is old enough, he needs to understand these things. I don't want him to be indoctrinated into that understanding that there is a difference in his formative years when it's not important for him to understand that, and he's too young to grasp the cultural context in the historical context of that. But once he is old enough and he is ready to grasp those concepts, I no longer want to shield him from them. And so here's the difference in the ways that this can be damaging and then the way that this can be a teachable moment. I once overheard, I was working at a bookstore decades ago, and there was a dad with his kid, and they were looking in the kids' books, and they were looking at Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And, if you don't know this, back whenever Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was first written, they had the illustrations in the book, and there was the illustrations of Willy Wonka and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the Oompa Loompas. And originally the Oompa Loompas were black. They were like pygmy little
hobbits or something, or like
no, they were like little minstrel characters. And I don't know when this happened, so I'm not even going to say a number because I have no idea. But at some point they went back and they changed it and they made them orange. At some point in the printing of the book, they went and they were like, yeah, we're going to change these from being black to orange. And then in the movie, they're orange. And so the book was censored in that way. And so I overheard him, and he was like showing and he's like, when I was a kid, at some point they changed them and they censored them. So this is like, you get like the bad version. And like, I wish they hadn't done that. Like he was basically telling his kid, like, it was better before they censored them, but now they, sensitive, snowflakes, freaked out, and then they had to change it. And now you get the worst version. So he's internalizing this idea in his kid of like, it was better the way it used to be. Whereas with me, if I was watching one of these things with my son and one of these types of things came up, I would use it as a teachable moment when he was old enough. And I would say, this was made at this time, and this was a thing that happened, and back then, an institutionalized part of American comedy was racially insensitive caricatures of other ethnicities. And I would explain to him that, and I would explain to him why this existed. And I would utilize this moment to be like, this was a thing that was bad that was done. And we have moved on from that in some ways, and there's still ways in which there's problems. And not only is it bad now, but it was bad then. It's not like, oh, back then things were just different. Like, no, this was still bad back then. And people still didn't like it back then. They just didn't have enough of a voice and enough of a forum to be able to dislike it vocally and have it be heard.
I think that should be Disney's job.
Yeah, but it's
Like
so playing on that,
No,
deciding
nothing about teaching my son how to be a good person is anybody's job. But
that's not what we're saying. No.
I meant like covering the history of those Disney cartoons that did those things. They should go back and be like, look at this area of our history. This is wrong. This is blah, blah, blah.
Right. So
as opposed to just putting it out.
Like we put mature on video games and movies, should there be an age gate to viewing that content until these kids can understand it? Like you said, you're like, are you gonna let your kid watch these things before he can comprehend what they actually mean?
I talked about this on one of the previous episodes, but I definitely avoid. There's tons of things that I loved when I was a kid that I just don't show Ephraim because I'm just like, this is like. I loved this and I love it now, and as an adult, I can sort of reconcile with the flaws of it, but this is way too violent for a 3-year-old, or this is way too something for a 3-year-old. So there are definitely things that I avoid showing him.
Right.
But in concept, what you're asking is a very complex question that I don't have all the answers to. I don't know when the right time is to show these things to him, or I have no idea. It's way too complex for me to have an answer for.
But I mean, right now with you, would you let him at this age see this content? Because he's not going to understand the thing before it, and he's not going to understand that it's a bad thing. He's just going to see a joke made by a character, and not understand that character is playing on something racist.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe, because I just don't think he would understand it. It would have no meaning to him. It would only be when he's a little older and he's able to understand these things, where he would be like Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Like, why is that white guy like wearing those round glasses with those buck teeth and that like haircut? And then, then I would have to have that conversation. Not that we're going to be watching Breakfast at Tiffany's together.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that something you're planning
No,
with your son?
I have no affinity for that movie at all. But but I think as a 3-year-old, if for whatever reason we watched Breakfast at Tiffany's, he would not understand what was even happening.
But you still make connections at that age.
No, I don't think that would have any meaning to him at all. It was
It's like when a child watches Family Guy. They're just looking at it for the sounds and the colors and like the few
right,
jokes
but they
that
also look
get,
at it for variance on what they see as normal. That's what makes like little children like that laugh. Is like when he sees Mickey Rooney doing a super racist accent, he's not gonna know that's a racist accent. He's gonna see that it's different and laugh.
Yeah,
There was a guy several years ago who got in trouble. He went super viral on social media, and this was even before like the last 3 or 4 years, where things have become like very like sensitive and PC about things. Where he got in trouble because a white guy, and he let his son go to school dressed as Martin Luther King Jr. in blackface, and it like people freaked out, and like he got taken out of school, and he was like a young kid. He was like in first grade or something like that, and he got sent home, and then people took pictures, and it went viral. And the guy basically said, he was like, I realized. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he basically was like, I realized how fucked up this is, but my son wanted to be Martin Luther King Jr. for Halloween because he idolizes him and looks up to him as like a hero. And he told me that he wanted to dress like him, and he wanted to make his skin black like him. And I knew that this was going to be an issue, and I knew that this was going to be a problem, but I could not. I could not get myself to tell him, you cannot make your skin that color, because I didn't want him to feel like it was a bad thing to have black skin. And so you're grimacing, but that's totally
Right, no, I understand that, but
reasonable.
But there's a way to explain it as a person without making it sound like there's negative connotation on having black skin.
His son was just too young to understand.
It was the moment for that conversation to happen.
Well, then that's up to him. It's up to the parent then to be like, hey, I get that. I think it's amazing that you want to be this wonderful man who did so much for this country, but we have to do it in a different way.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the dad did the right thing. I think the dad.
No, he did not do the right thing.
He did not do the right thing.
Yeah, the dad did in a predicament where he didn't know what the right thing to do was. He did something that
was the wrong thing.
It was his best solution at the moment, and it was obviously the wrong thing. Right. But the reasoning for why he did it wasn't just, I just thought it was fine because who cares. His reasoning was like, I didn't know what to do because I was scared that telling him no would make him think that like having black skin is a bad thing.
I didn't mean to grimace, but when I heard that, I didn't know about that. That just sounds like
it wasn't a good decision.
I guess what I was trying to say with that story is just like it is a very complex issue that like I don't think anybody really has the real answers on you can have like broadly an opinion on like what you think is the right thing, but when you really get out into the really minute details of it, then it's just like I don't know. Like I don't know what the right thing is in these situations.
It was the time for that conversation. That
definitely was the time. Yeah,
he could have just explained it.
If
but
your kid's asking to change their skin color, that's the time to have a conversation.
And if your
about
son is
skin.
aware of who Martin Luther King is and why he likes him, it's probably that time to explain, okay, you like him for this reason. Let's give you a little bit more context as to why putting that on your skin and on your face may not be the best thing you want to do.
Yeah.
I think going back to Disney, I really feel like they kind of half-assed their explanation.
Oh, totally.
Like what Warner says, you go, that's great. It seems like Disney going, wah, wah, sorry, not
Exactly.
sorry.
Yeah,
Can you read it one more time?
Oh yeah, what was Disney's? I don't think we heard Disney's.
No,
yet.
Disney's was the
Yeah,
It's really short.
I said it, and it's so brief that you just forgot
Oh.
it, but this program is presented as originally created. It may contain outdated cultural depictions.
period.
Okay.
May contain.
But also like,
Yeah.
Did.
Yeah.
it's almost like they're like,
It's leaving up
not-
for interpretation.
not
Like,
our fault.
If you're offended by this, we
Yeah.
we disassociate ourselves.
Whereas
from it.
if
Right.
they had taken ownership and been like Warner Brothers, like, we know this is bad.
And we made this.
We made this.
I think that they were scared of
They-
owning it and acknowledging it because they thought if they did, maybe it would go viral and people would freak out, and then they would end up in a whole mess that would end up with
And
them
they
having
didn't
to take these things down.
They didn't want to go too left and too right either.
Yeah.
Because if they were like, yeah, we did this and we own this and blah, 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 somebody on the right side is going to say, whoa, like, you
Okay,
know.
but does
it's-
that
you
matter
know,
as a-
and
as
then-
a
but,
company?
but it doesn't matter
Well,
necessarily
as
on
Michael
like,
Jordan,
what you're saying.
as
but
Michael Jordan once famously said, Republicans wear shoes too.
That's what I was about to say. I think they're just trying to protect their money. So they're trying to say, like, we don't want the left side to come after us and we don't want the right side to come after us. So the best thing we could possibly do is just be somewhere in the middle and say, if this bothers you, it offends you, sorry. And if it doesn't, cool.
But
Right,
if you're in
but-
the middle, you pick a side basically.
What do you mean?
You can't just be in the middle.
That's what I'm saying. If you're willing to call it out, talk about it in general, if you're gonna say that we were racist,
yeah, you can't
do
just
it
be
the
like,
right way and show people how like to properly call yourself out. Warner Brothers did a good job at it.
You guys are right, but
Yeah.
But
you
also,
guys,
but
you
that's
guys
what
are
I'm saying. We were-
speaking.
we
You guys
were
are
all,
speaking in theory. Of,
we were all just like
But Disney's they're trying to protect the bag.
But yeah.
yeah, but who? That's what I'm saying. Can we talk about how that's toxic and terrible of Disney to do something like that? Because who the fuck cares how much money you're making on top of $1 billion? Because if Republicans wear
I
shoes
don't-
too, they can wear some other fucking shoes.
To have the conversation that it's toxic and terrible that they did that, you can't have that conversation without then zooming out and acknowledging that capitalism in general is toxic and terrible.
You're damn right. But
Like,
we
you
could talk
can't-
about
like, you
companies
just-
that are making money
they're
right
they're
now. off of
inextricably
each
related.
and every one of us.
Because of course they would take a middle ground because they're a business and they want money from everybody. They don't want to offend anybody, so they're going to try to strike that balance as best they can.
It's,
That
it's
sounds
completely
weird.
different to go, we're not trying to offend anyone, so we're going to assuage racism. We're going to tell people who agree with, like, this should be shown without any warnings. That's wrong. Like, that's a wrong way of thinking.
Like,
But
why do you care about the other side if you know it's wrong?
Exactly.
Like, why are you
you
wanna
trying to
protect
worry
our
about
money?
the racist side?
because they want their money too.
Because the money is all the same color.
So, but that kind of goes against what you were saying before. If they were trying to avoid picking one side and getting backlash, you're gonna get it because of that reason. Like, you acknowledge it's wrong, it's outdated information, and you still like,
Yeah, but I mean-
you know, there are some people who are out there praising this,
praising what?
praising the fact that they at least
But
brought it up.
I'm happy they brought it up,
The
but-
fallout of this proves that it was kind of the best in terms of protecting their own self-interest. It was the best route because there was a little bit of controversy, but there wasn't as much controversy if they didn't acknowledge it. Like this could have potentially, because the thing, and I realize this because the crazy thing about this is that when I see this content warning, I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I knew this. So to me, it's academic. It's like, oh, it's nice that they acknowledge this. There is a whole generation of people who love Disney, who fucking spend hundreds of dollars every month buying Disney shit, going to Disneyland, that don't even know this shit exists.
Yeah.
That, like, there is a whole group of people who could potentially be like, I'm a Disney like fanboy or fangirl. I love Disney so much, and then see Dumbo and be like, Disney's canceled. That's crazy for me to think about because I know these things, but there's so many people that don't even know about this stuff, that have no frame of reference. So,
But then if you put it out and then you just say it
so
may have outdated
they have
things.
to acknowledge it for them because they.
But what
you know,
did they-
there's a scenario where Disney Plus launched. All these people were like, I'm gonna check out some old Disney stuff that I've never seen before, and then just went.
But what
and
did
then,
they actually
and then
acknowledge?
Disney just gets fucked, and they topple, and
But what about the people that enjoy it? What happened to
No.
those people? Aren't they going to keep paying their subscriptions?
but that's
aren't those people that
half,
like it?
That's statistically half of their
Well,
audience.
then
I just
pick
think-
the fucking right half.
What did they really acknowledge?
but the whole is better. Having 100% of them is more money than half.
But
Or
what they,
even 80.
They're a company. They don't give a fuck about that
So
stuff.
we can all agree.
They care about money.
I just don't know what they acknowledge. They just
Any
say, hey,
company,
That's
it
any
what
might be some
corporation.
stuff.
That's the thing. It's like,
There might be
it's
some
like
stuff our bad, but the Warner Brothers when
They didn't
Kelly
say
said,
our bad.
Is
They
that,
just
they
said
didn't say
even
our
that-
bad.
They just
That's the
said
thing.
even
there's
that-
some
Didn't
stuff.
say our
And
bad.
if you feel
but they
something
didn't
about
say
this,
there's some stuff. They said there may be some stuff.
Yeah,
As opposed to
yeah.
Warner Bros. Who said there's racism, there's this, there's that.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you really acknowledging?
know.
They didn't
That's the thing,
acknowledge
nothing.
anything.
They're really they're just,
Yeah, it was a weak sauce
Yeah.
attempt at it. The Warner Bros. One was way better.
Yeah.
Trash. But people are still going. Disney's not going anywhere though.
I am literally
So-
paying for a Disney Plus subscription while bitching about all of this. Like I'm there are
this is a case you got
overlords.
to pirate.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
If you don't
100%.
like it-
if you got it,
I'm not
and it's not a
affiliated
3-year thing, just I cancel it after the first month.
If
I'm
you don't
getting,
mind
I'm
it-
getting the free month and I'm done with it.
Yeah. If you feel some type of way about it, just pirate it. If you like it, then
Yeah.
pay for it. That's what I say.
That's absurd, Tyler. You knew that this stuff existed before you bought it, and now that it's become a story, now
What do you mean?
You already knew that this stuff existed, and now that it's become a thing, now you're like, oh, I'm canceling my thing. Like you
Hold
already
on a minute. No,
you knew this stuff existed before you paid
I have
for
been
it,
preaching fuck Disney since day one.
and yet you paid for it.
Of course, yeah. It's in the zeitgeist. I got to check it out.
Don't act in retrospect like, oh, now I'm taking the moral high ground.
I'm not acting in
and
retrospect.
canceling my subscription.
I've always said it.
When you bought the subscription with full knowledge of this stuff.
Yeah. So I could check it out. It's a free month subscription.
But it's a lifetime of damage when you watch that racism.
Kelby with the tip in.
All right, Disney's bad. All right, we're moving on.
As long as we agree.
I think sanitizing these cartoons and movies from existence is just as bad as pretending like there is not an established history of systemic racism in our
And
country.
we agree with you on that. Yeah.
Also, I forgot to say this at the beginning, but like we're definitely losing listeners from talking about this.
Oh, from talking
Like,
about
yeah,
the,
we're
yeah.
we're definitely losing.
But
listeners
again,
from talking
down to
about
40.
This,
Who
this
the
is the
fuck
most.
cares?
This is the most.
My God.
I've tried to
Just
keep
my
this,
son listening. Now.
I've tried to keep. I've tried to strike a balance between. I don't want to make this podcast overly political, but I also don't want to pretend like I don't have a
Right.
position.
Yeah.
So I've like veered away as best as I can, but when worst comes to worst, I'm gonna be honest.
Right.
And this is just we've knocked open the dam. Like,
I hope
like,
so.
This is the we've.
I
this
mean,
is no
but
longer
I hope we
an
don't do this all the
apolitical
time, but I'm
podcast.
really happy we had this
But
conversation.
you can't straddle the fence all the time. Though.
That's what I'm saying. Is,
Like,
yeah,
you
it's like
can't-
if we
you're
were
not
ju-
gonna
if
get
we had
everybody.
just like all agreed that they did something and
I'm
we, all,
fine
and we
with
don't
it,
think
but
it
I
was
just
right.
there's definitely like a.
You're fine with what?
I'm fine that it happened.
Oh,
but
yeah,
there's,
yeah.
But there's definitely like also a part of me that's like the you can't unring this bell.
Right. We can't. I mean, we can't. But
I mean, I'm 100% not listening to this podcast anymore after what has been
Oh
said.
yeah.
Well, I'm done.
Kirk is part of the 7th Cavalry.
I don't even know what that means.
oh no,
Watchman.
That's
Watchman,
not
yeah.
good.
Oh God, was that? Oh, yeah. I've already forgotten about Watchmen.
They're the racist ones.
Literally, have
You've
already
forgotten about it so much that you're calling it Watchman.
Yeah.
Also,
I
another
call it Watch People.
also another thing I noticed on the episode when we talked about Watchmen, at one point you called it Dead Men.
Did I?
Yeah, just in your little like one thing you were saying, you were like, "Yeah, the thing I thought about Dead Men." I was like,
It's
how did you get Dead Men? Like,
Dead
how did you possibly-
I stand by that.
Deadpool, man.
So a couple of quick follow-ups from some previous stories. So you know, as I predicted, as I knew it would happen, we sort of got a little bit of a scoop on the James Dean thing. But after we talked about the James Dean movie on last episode, there's been a big backlash against it.
Really?
A bunch of celebrities have come out and criticized it. So Chris Evans said, "This is awful. Maybe we can get a computer to paint us a new Picasso or write a couple new John Lennon tunes. The complete lack of understanding here is shameful." Dylan Sprouse, half of the Sprouse twins, who are Sweet Life of Zach and Cody guys. I think he's the one that's on Riverdale. He said,
That might be Cole, I think.
Who cares?
It's Cole.
What
the
did
one
he
with
say?
the slimmer face.
whatever.
Yeah.
He said, Mark Rossler, CEO of CMG Worldwide, says in addition to other famous deceased personalities, the film opens up a whole new opportunity for many of our clients who are no longer with us. To be read as, found a new way to rob graves of dead icons and milk the masses for less. Zelda Williams, who is the daughter of Robin Williams, the late great Robin Williams, said, I have talked to friends about this for years, and no one ever believed me that the industry would stoop this low once tech got better. Publicity stunt or not, this is puppeteering the dead for their clout alone, and it sets such an awful precedent for the future of performance.
She hit clout.
And I just want to quickly, I don't want to dwell on this, but let me quickly say that I just want to say this for posterity in the event that this happens. We talked about this last episode. We talked about it seriously, and we talked about it as if it was a real thing that was going to happen. I just want to say, I was thinking about this in retrospect, and I just want to say that I think that this likely will never happen. And I think that this was mostly a publicity stunt. And I think that people are maybe getting spun up over nothing because I think that this is just something that's never actually going to come to pass.
You pay to put that stuff out and for it to be seen by people. So it's like, what's the point?
You got us what? What did they
Just got us that this was a publicity stunt to get people talking and that it's not a real thing that's actually going to happen.
to talk about the company that's doing it? Who's who's benefiting from this troll?
Like
Just
the-
those
the
guys,
movie?
like they can say this and then they can do their real movie that they were going to do, and then everyone's like, oh, it's the guys who were going to make that James Dean movie.
I'm wondering why like those celebrities are shocked because it's about the bag.
That's true.
Okay,
Okay,
why
that's
they
what I'm saying.
shocked?
It's like you can repurpose.
They know
racist
this.
content
His family
to
said it
make
was
more money
okay.
after it's done. Like
I don't know.
I don't understand it.
I think that's
Alright.
where things are going. If it's
I-
cheaper and it's effective, I feel like they're gonna use tech a lot more.
I definitely want my
Even in
image used
movies.
after I'm dead.
The world's just going to be Simone.
I really like this. It's all about the bag. I'm just hearing it for the first time, and I love it.
Yeah.
Never heard that before, and I think that's wonderful.
Really,
I think that's wonderful.
really quick, so we talked about the fact that Eddie Murphy said that he was going to be doing Beverly Hills Cop 4 after he finished Coming to America 2, and it was officially confirmed that Netflix has obtained the rights and will be developing the Beverly Hills Cop 4 movie. So that's going to be a Netflix movie.
Yeah.
Toby doesn't look happy about that one.
On board.
I don't like that.
Why?
I don't like to see these like kind of big movies on Netflix.
Why?
I just it's just like I was watching it in my living room. It's like
You always take it like 5 seconds.
it's not an event anymore. It's just like just go to your living room. and
Yeah, it's
watch it.
great.
Just
No.
You and Marty Scorsese should hang out.
Remember what I said about
no, it's
reserved
not
seating?
that. It's no, I get that.
you
I
know,
get
start
it.
your
but
own
it's
theater
just
where
like,
you charge people to watch Netflix movies.
No, it's just that's the thing. It's a Netflix movie. It just kind of takes something out of it, you know?
Because it's a
just-
Netflix movie?
Yeah, I just feel like it's not an event anymore. You know?
Why not?
Are you crazy? It's Eddie Murphy. It's an event.
I mean, the thing with
I watched 5 seconds of Dolomite and I turned the thing off.
yeah, but here's the thing. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we just. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm not like it's just different. I'm
Yeah.
not criticizing this.
Yes.
But when you talk about this, and whenever Lewis said that like Watchmen was like the first thing we watched where it actually made him put down his phone,
Yeah.
like you guys just have vastly different attention spans than I do. Because I can sit and watch a thing on Netflix at home and just watch the whole thing and
It wasn't Watchmen,
and be
it was Primal.
engaged. Yeah, whatever it was. You said you
Primal.
put down the phone, and it's like I didn't have my phone in my hand for any of these. I watched them without looking at my phone at all because I like watching movies and shows. So
Yeah.
you guys just have completely different attention spans than I do because
See, I could put my phone down when I'm in the theater.
Yeah, but
Your
then
you
fall asleep when
I
you're sitting.
like
So
the
if I'm in
event.
the
I like
theater,
the event of the theater. I like to be around other people and the popcorn. The event of watching in the theaters. The fact that it's with the sound all around. I just like that. But when I'm in my living room and it's just the speaker on the TV and it's just everything is so accessible. My phone is right there. I can stop the movie, go get something to eat, go to the bathroom. Like all this stuff is just like.
Why?
Yeah,
It sounds like you need barricades for yourself so you don't do anything else. You can't,
I don't want to.
You can't stop your brain from going, I need to do something else while I'm
It's
doing
just
it.
not.
that just sounds like you
it's
just
not an
don't
event
like
to me.
movies that much.
No, it's just not an event to me anymore.
I don't know,
It's just like, oh, the TV's on.
So you mean like getting dressed, going out?
Yeah, like I
whole
want
thing?
to experience the movie. You know, the to me a movie is more than just something you just put on your TV. It's to me it's like I want to go. They carefully crafted the sound to be played in this theater. It's just to me it's more than just being on my TV. I could watch YouTube on my TV. I could stream something from my phone to my TV. It's just not special. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. You put Eddie Murphy, I don't care. Like it's.
What if they made it like a drive-through, like a drive-in experience where they have like
that's
watch
that's
Beverly
cool
Hills
too.
Cop?
Like just for it to be something.
Just put more effort into your Netflix watches.
Nah, man.
Just
forget
like
that. It's
black
not-
out the windows, put on some headphones that are Bluetooth.
some
It's not,
candles.
it's not the same thing.
It's
Okay,
it's your-
boomer.
It's, yeah, it's your ability to put the effort out. It's like,
couldn't wait. To
You
see
got
that.
me.
boom.
The OK Boomer
got
meme
me.
is officially dead.
I killed it.
All right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's a Friends reunion special in development for HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
All 6 original cast members of Friends are in early talks for a long-awaited reunion special to air on HBO Max in celebration of the show's 25th anniversary. Warner Brothers is now under the same umbrella as HBO Max, which paid a reported $425 million to secure the streaming rights to Friends from Netflix. THR reports that the Friends reunion special would feature the entire core cast with Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matthew Perry, LeBlanc, not Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc.
He just comes back from the dead and does Bugs Bunny impression.
That I would see.
Matt LeBlanc and David Schwimmer all in early talks to appear. Yes, they're doing a reunion special, but don't get too excited because, as somebody pointed out in an article that I read,
Friend sucks.
it could just be like a sit-down cast interview.
Oh.
Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
That kind of
It
bet you
doesn't.
that's
It
what
doesn't
it
say
is.
anything about
Oh.
it being a real show
Yeah.
or whatever. It
Oh,
just
okay.
says that it's a reunion.
They're
So
gonna
like
sit
a-
down and be like, "So are you guys still friends?"
Yeah,
And
the
all
one
that
where
stupid
everybody
stuff.
is disappointed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what's up. Living single though.
They need that one.
Yeah, they brought that back.
They
That'd
need
be
that
crazy.
one.
Just for the
You know?
theme
I
song.
want to see Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could be a judge right now. Probably.
could.
Yeah.
She was cool.
Yeah.
Grace Under Fire. That's the reunion we all need.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And Reba.
Oh.
I did too much.
I don't give a shit. I love Reba.
All right.
Listen, people out there watching Big Bang Theory got nothing on Reba, so.
Reba fucking sucks.
Thank you, Todd. Me and Todd are like kindred because
Reba sucks.
Todd's about to walk
spirits
out.
over here.
Yeah.
He got the biggest eye roll for Friends too, and I was like, I feel that.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. Friends
Nah,
blows.
Yeah.
Friends. I seen only a couple episodes. I get it. It was a break. Nah, it was-
Friends is not a bad show. I don't like Friends, but it's not. It doesn't suck.
Last week I tried to
I was never a Friends fan.
my daughter it 'cause she's like, I want to check out Friends, and she got through an episode and a half. She's like, nah. She's just like,
Really?
Yeah.
Because Friends right now is going through like
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah.
She was like,
Everybody's
she was
on
down with it. And I was like, let's watch it together. And then after an episode and a half, she's like, no.
Wait, for what age group is it?
Was it the first season?
Yeah, we start from the beginning.
It's like
Well,
younger
that
younger
could
people.
be
Yeah,
that
15,
because
I think
Like
it's
like
like first
Gen
20s.
Z people are like super obsessed with
Into Friends?
the Office and Friends because they're just
The
like
Office is
streaming on.
The Office I get.
They love The
Friends
Office.
is garbage.
I'm not gonna say it's garbage.
Another old sitcom revival that I'm way more excited about. Frasier revival is coming, and there's a weird thing about Frasier, where people just like seem to like hate Frasier, and everybody that I talk to that hates Frasier, I'm like, why do you hate Frasier? And they're like, I don't know, it's just boring. It's just
Yeah.
like, and I was like, what are you talking
boring.
about? It's not boring. And then like, there's this
amazing.
weird conception of Frasier that it's like this boring show for like old people, and like the characters are just these like pretentious, boring people. And I'm just like, what do you like? The show is good. They're supposed to be pretentious, boring people.
Yeah.
That's the point of the show.
Let's say this: Kelsey Grammer, love him.
Fantastic.
Kelsey Grammer is fantastic. Everything he did, with the game and that show he did with Martin and all that stuff, great. Frasier though.
Frasier's a good show. I don't understand the Frasier hate.
Frasier's just boring.
Frasier is
not boring.
I feel like I straddle the line. Frasier is a good show, and I watched it. I don't need this.
Yeah.
I don't need more of it. I enjoyed it when it was on. If I want to check it out again, I'll check it out again. I don't need more Frasier.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Probably didn't need it the first time around.
Hurtful.
Frasier's a great show.
It's gonna be. I don't know how they're gonna bring it back because Kelsey Grammer also, like, after the Transformer movies, just looks grizzled. Like, he looks like a badass now.
Kelsey Grammer says, we've hatched the plan. What we think is the right way to go. We're sort of on standby a little bit, working on a couple of possible network details that we're circling. And Frasier is sort of in a second position to that at this point. So there's still stuff going on, but a revisit to Frasier's world is, I think, definitely going to come. We'll see how people respond to it, because it's not going to be in the same place. It's not going to be in Seattle. It's not going to be the same Frasier. It's going to be the man in his next iteration, and hopefully that'll be something people like watching. I think it will be funny. It's still his search for love. I think that's always going to go on with Frasier.
I have a question when it comes to these reboots. You know how the style of writing of a sitcom has changed. It's not the same as far as like how they lay pipe down to tell a joke, and how the sitcoms used to have maybe a different form of storytelling episode per episode. It maybe was more about the characters versus the jokes. When they bring these shows back, I feel like the style of writing vastly changes, which kind of blows the balloon. Like, it pops the balloon as to what we're expecting, because we liked it back then, and we probably watch the old episodes and still like it today. But then when they bring it back, it's this new style of writing sitcoms, if you get what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not so sure, only because, like, for a while I watched the reboot of Will and Grace, and I was like, oh, it's exactly the same.
Really?
It did not change. It's just them older.
Okay.
So it's those same jokes and those same... So it felt exactly the same, just older.
Is that show Chuck Lorre?
No.
No, okay.
Chuck Lorre.
Lorre, yeah, okay.
Chuck Lorre.
Who, fun fact, wrote the theme song for the 1986 Ninja Turtles show. There's a gender-swapped Kung Fu reboot coming.
Kung Fu. What does that mean?
You don't know Kung Fu?
It's a martial
It's
art.
just a movie.
It was a
Kung
martial
Fu?
arts movie, and it was a TV show in the early 70s.
Oh, okay.
The original Kung Fu, it's where David Carradine is from. Like, that's the thing he was.
It's the TV show that Bruce Lee was supposed to do, but they gave it to David Carradine instead, because give it to a white guy.
No way, really?
Yeah, seriously.
The original Kung Fu
That's
series
crazy.
first began airing on television in 1972. It starred David Carradine as Kwai Chang Caine, the orphan
Exactly.
son of
I mean,
an
seriously.
Say his name
American
again? What?
Kwai Chang Caine, the orphan son of an American man and a Chinese woman. After killing an emperor's nephew in retaliation for murdering his mentor, Caine flees to the United States to seek out his family roots. The series concluded in 1975 after airing over 60 episodes, but the franchise would later continue with the 1986 movie follow-up, Kung Fu the Movie, which brought back Carradine as Caine. In 1987, a pilot was filmed for a new TV series dubbed Kung Fu the Next Generation, though it failed to be picked up. A more successful TV series reboot was introduced in 1993, which brought Carradine back to the franchise one last time with Kung Fu the Legend Continues, running for 4 seasons and 88 episodes. And it's funny because I know of Kung Fu and I knew of it at the time, but that's not the Kung Fu that I knew. I knew Kung Fu the Legend Continues, which was a show about his son.
Yeah, that's
Is
right.
David the deceased one, or is that Robert?
David Carradine died
Okay,
of autoerotic asphyxiation in his closet in a hotel.
Oh, wait. Oh, okay. So when you said David from Kill Bill, or
Okay.
I read that. I was like, who? But
The
it's
brother of of the dad from Lizzie McGuire.
Oh, that's not how I know him, but
Yeah.
So they're doing a reboot of this with a gender swapped. So the main character is going to be female. The classic kung fu TV, and also Asian. The classic kung
Fingers
fu TV.
crossed.
let's hope.
Brenda Song, please.
No, it's actually
Yes.
it's ScarJo, guys.
The new series will follow a young Chinese American woman who drops out of college to go on a life-changing journey to an isolated monastery in China. However, when she finds her hometown overrun with crime and corruption, she must use her martial arts skills and Shaolin values to protect her community and bring criminals to justice, all while searching for the assassin who killed her Shaolin mentor and is now targeting her. So, you know,
I'll see it.
with all of these shows, I mean, Magnum PI and Lethal Weapon, like, I don't know. These shows are just not up my alley. Not because I care, not because I'm like, oh, don't reboot my stuff or whatever. But there's just like, I don't know, they're just made as these kind of just generic, crappy shows.
But I heard Lethal Weapon was pretty good. The TV show.
I don't know. Maybe it was. I never watched it.
Guys, it was pretty
You
bad.
watched it?
I tried.
With Wayans, or was he already out?
No, with Wayne's.
Oh.
The first version of this was when they did the Hawaii Five-0 reboot. And I watched a couple episodes of that
Sneeze again.
because my parents were watching it, and it was just so terrible.
Yeah.
The 90210 reboot has been canceled after one season.
Where was that airing?
Was it on
I don't
Fox?
even know.
Wait, it already aired?
Yeah. It had like the first episode had huge ratings, and they're like, "Here we go. We're back. This is going to be huge."
Beverly Hills 90210 reunion series will end its run after season 1, as Fox has declined to renew
On Fox.
it for a second season. Spanning 6 episodes, the limited series brought back nearly all of the primary cast members of the original show and was critically well received. However, while noting they were proud of the series, Fox has now confirmed in a statement that the revival series has run its course.
I wouldn't have put it on Fox. I would put it maybe like on CBS or CW, one of those two.
I
But
mean,
Fox doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's started on Fox.
the only
CW makes sense.
Even
the only actor who was worth a damn on this show
Be careful.
was Luke Perry,
There you go.
and he passed away. So
Yeah.
what is the point of this
R.I.P.
fucking show?
Is there? This is terrible, but I'm like, part of me goes, good that they're not doing the show again. And I have no reason to say that. I don't know why, but deep inside my heart, I go, yeah.
We don't
I'm
need
glad.
it. We just don't need it. We just don't
Well,
need it.
give Chad Michael Murray a job. Bring the OC back.
He was on the OC.
Haven't thought about that guy.
One Tree
Yeah,
Hill.
One
Oh,
Tree
One Tree
Hill.
Hill.
Fuck yeah, bring back.
I don't
One-
wanna be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately.
Oh shit.
Okay.
All I'm asking you
It's
is
like a
to
me
me
and
and
I
my
got
peace of mind.
Bring back One Tree Hill. That shit was amazing.
Tired of
telling
looking
you.
around and
Chad
wondering
Michael
what I
Murray
gotta
working at
do
Denny's
and
somewhere
who
right
I'm
now.
supposed to be. What?
All right. No, we
Denny's.
going on.
But not for Chad Michael Murray, just Sophia Bush. She needs to be in everything.
Cool. Word. All right. Well, goodbye, 90210.
Yeah.
All right.
It was nice, barely.
So we're going to take a little break, and then after we come back, we are going to talk about episode 1 of The Mandalorian, the new original show premiering on Disney Plus. No racially insensitive content.
Well,
Yet.
I
Literally
might be.
during the break, I saw a new article about how somebody noticed that they took the Michael Jackson episode of The Simpsons down from Disney Plus. So they are going in and
Wow.
What is
Interesting.
What's the Michael Jackson episode?
He was a guest star on the show. He did a guest voice as Michael Jackson. But
Well, it was like he was like a mental patient.
yeah.
But it was like he thinks he's
He
Michael
thinks he's
Jackson.
Michael Jackson,
and
But
then
it was played by Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? Why did they take it out?
just
Is
the
Michael
controversy
Jackson's
of it.
dead?
What? Are you?
I'm just
Because
like,
of the controversy surrounding Michael Jackson.
Okay, I know that, but you guys, I'm okay. Got it. Never mind.
Okay.
So, The Mandalorian, episode 1. One of the first Disney Plus original shows. What'd you guys think?
All right. So I watched The Mandalorian. I watched it, and I'm gonna compliment sandwich it.
You are big
Jeez.
on compliment sandwiches.
I am. First of all, it looks
I'm
great.
partial to cookie ice cream sandwiches.
When I say compliment sandwich,
Without the
I
ice
always
cream.
think about that.
I'm
I
going to
always
go get
think
a
about
cookie
that.
ice cream sandwich
Yeah.
Oh, at the place?
at
Probably
7-Eleven.
Can you give me a cookie?
Hey, no free
Oh,
advertisement.
sometimes I think about getting you a cookie, and then I'm like,
We don't get
he's
a
not
cut.
gonna get it.
No, I want a cookie.
All right,
They didn't
so
cut the
You're a
bread.
grown ass man. I'm not buying you anything.
okay, I watched it. Looks expensive, is expensive, feels expensive, looks great. Aside from
There's a thing you're gonna say that you said it yesterday, and I didn't know what you were talking about at the time because I hadn't watched it yet. But now I know exactly what you're talking about, and I have an explanation.
okay, bring that up in a quick second. Couple things that I noticed. The coloring. Disney has this coloring thing that they do that just is so well done. Kudos to them. I don't know why my eye caught onto it, but it's a very well shot, well colored show. There's one thing that I noticed, that there's a couple scenes that are grainy, and I'm not sure why that exists. Aside from that, the show sucks.
Hot take.
This
Wait,
show.
what's the end
This
of the
is the
sentence?
nerdiest show, the doofiest show.
I can't.
What are you
wait,
talking about?
When you said doofiest, I was like, damn, that's kind of bad. But it's a show for nerds. It's
Yeah,
not
Really?
it's the nerdiest
But
show.
nerd doesn't mean
I
bad.
really.
No,
Yeah,
of course
it's-
nerd doesn't
yeah,
mean bad, but
this-
this is in no
and
way
then
that
they're
show.
talking. They're
It's a
like,
nerd show.
they have the nerd jargon. Go to the Klingon to get to the boo boo. I'm like, oh gosh,
That's
man.
an exact line, actually.
Yeah, go
It
to
was weird just
Klingon
hearing
Get
that.
to the boo-boo.
It's just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what a lame show. I didn't know what the hell was happening. He's riding a dinosaur. What is this? Okay, back to the other side of the sandwich. I really like
Wait.
the sets.
Not to cut you off. How are you making this sandwich? Is it bread?
It's compliment.
It's bread. It's bread.
I think you
shit,
broke
and
Todd.
more bread.
You broke Todd.
No, but I want to know what's the next layer. Is it like mayo,
It's
He's 3
compliment.
layers in already, man.
It's compliment.
which is the bread, or
no, the
anger.
coloring was
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's bread,
okay,
ice cream,
okay. Oh, I go.
or meat or whatever,
Okay,
and then bread.
got you. Go ahead.
So when you give a compliment sandwich, it's the compliment on top, compliment at the bottom, and inside we talk about, you
How
know,
it's complete shit.
yes.
All right, go back to our complete shit.
Okay. Oh, go
No,
back to that.
don't go-
Yeah.
you
No, but
passed
And
that's when he
then
left
the
off.
the little red man, the little red
criticism,
character.
Your criticism is a non-criticism because you gave no real reason other than
Okay,
you
I'm
just
continuing.
didn't because you just didn't understand it.
Okay,
And thought
fine.
it was
Okay,
nerdy.
fine. And the red character, when he's speaking, it's like his mouth doesn't match up to the voice. So that was another thing that bothered me.
The red character,
The little red
character.
man.
The
who-
blue man?
No, the guy who's
No.
going to help him.
Nick Nolte.
Okay. Well, the little red man who helps him ride the dinosaur.
Oh, okay, yeah, Nick Nolte.
Okay.
That dude's ugly.
Red, but
He's
Yeah, that's weird.
I thought
My
he was
notes.
red.
I got. Go ahead,
Yeah.
my
Did you
bad.
say
know,
red too?
The
Your
mouth
guys'
doesn't
criticisms
match.
is-
The
are so
writing
weird.
is
Yeah.
so boring. It's probably the most boring thing you guys made
Oh,
me watch
God.
this whole podcast. I was literally like, I've never seen Star Wars before in my life, and this being the first thing that I ever watched just
Wait.
makes me see. Just throw the whole thing
Did you
away.
did you watch like any old school like spaghetti western movies at all? When
I'm
you were a kid?
totally aware because
Okay,
when
but
I-
did you
yeah.
did you think those were boring and slow and terrible?
No.
That's what this is.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's-
fine.
this
And
is-
this is not a good version of it. This is garbage. For they spent $120 million on pure garbage.
First of all, they didn't spend $124 million on this
one episode. I understand.
Oh, they didn't?
No.
They spent $120 million on this probably this season,
Yeah.
but this is bad. This is not good.
I don't think it's horrible.
Wow.
This is
I
not
could
good.
kind of agree with you, but like it wasn't for me. But I watched it. I was like, this looks cool.
It looks cool.
But
yeah.
I got like 3 quick notes. I just want to
Okay,
Go
okay,
for
okay.
it.
just to give my opinion. So I started off. I said I like the score. The flutes are wavy. I don't know what like instrument that was, but it sounds good.
It's the Klukan.
Well, I don't know. And then I was like, oh shit, he got chopped in half by the door.
Yeah, that was
was
sick.
sick.
That was really good.
I was like, that.
like
that's
that.
sharp.
Oh
I
yeah,
did
shit.
like that. Yeah, you're
Heavy
right.
spoilers coming on, guys.
Oh, they should know by now.
Yeah, but
You got
then-
Rose McGowan and screamed.
My last thing, before I I actually watched it, but I was like, all right, this is not for me. The last thing I wrote was that fish dinosaur thing is ugly, and the old man that was helping him is ugly too.
Ugly as hell.
Yeah, but
facts.
he's
Like,
Such
how
weird
dare you?
criticism.
Yeah.
It's like
But I
he's
feel like
supposed to be ugly.
is that IG-88 the one that said he wanted self-destruct?
That's
It's IG-11.
That's
but
IG-11.
That
yeah.
one, I like his character. I like that character.
the
Taika
Taika Waititi.
Waititi.
Yeah,
I like
this movie was missing one thing,
Not
and
a
it
movie.
was
TV
and it
show.
was
Not a movie.
it was
TV
a
show.
oh
Show.
I'm sorry, this show was missing one thing, and it was a scene where the Mandalorian put his cap down and it rained on him while he like sat outside by a fire, and it would have been a perfect Western. Like this movie or this show was fantastic.
Both you and Andrew were like shocked at Kelby's thing.
Yeah,
I want to
it's-
see like what does this mean to you guys, or like Kirk too. I don't know if you want to
shows
chime in, but like
Well,
what is
before, because I know what you're gonna say. I in the middle. I didn't hate it at all. I didn't love it. I'm definitely gonna watch it again. I was entertained. I loved all the cast in it. A spoiler. I really cringed with the whole like Yoda thing.
What?
the baby?
That's not Yoda.
But it's
wait,
a
so-
Yoda.
but who is that?
It's
Why
a
did you-
Yoda character.
why
right?
did you
No,
cringe?
it's the same species, but it's not.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't know
yeah,
how.
Yoda?
I don't know how to describe what species
Oh,
Yoda is.
no, you don't. It has never been revealed what Yoda's species is called.
So is that? But that is that
That
Yoda?
means- No.
No, it's a different.
So it's a species
I thought it
that
was
Yoda.
Yoda.
is.
That's the cutest thing in
Yeah,
there.
Yes.
I don't understand why you
Yeah,
cringed at
definitely.
that.
I
But why does he gotta hold
really
the baby?
cringed at that.
I
I was
I-
kind of on board, and then it got there, and I literally went, "Ooh."
Hold on.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
one
I don't
feel
understand
you.
that at all. I thought that
totally
I loved
feel you.
that
I got one question about the Yoda, the baby thing.
Uh-huh.
Why did the other robot want to kill it?
because he
He was sent by a different
was
person.
his-
the contractor wanted him to kill the baby.
okay.
The old German guy said like, if you have to kill it, but IG
The old German guy.
what is his name?
Werner
Werner Herzog.
Herzog.
Thank you. Yeah, the Werner Herzog.
I
He
didn't
was
understand not a word he said.
really.
Not a word.
Oh well, yeah, but he was like the idea is that I think they're trying to conclude that IG-11 was sent by a different what's his name's character.
He was just sent by somebody else who wanted the thing dead and not salvaged.
Right, but I think it was Giancarlo Esposito.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was him who said. I think that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't know that because Giancarlo wasn't in this. Version.
yeah, he
Yeah, but,
wasn't in
but
there.
it probably was.
Yeah.
It probably was him.
Oh,
okay.
great to see Carl Weathers.
Great
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see
yeah.
Carl
He looks
Weathers.
Goddamn Apollo Creed.
He looks
I mean,
good.
yeah, great
and great
cast.
to see the continued
Great to see
joke.
Carl Weathers, but how far the mighty have fallen that back in the day Billy D. Williams was a poor man's Carl Weathers, and now Carl Weathers is a poor man's Billy D.
don't know.
Williams.
I mean,
Because Billy D. Williams is Lando, and he wouldn't be caught dead in a fucking TV
Oh, you mean Childish
show.
Gambino?
Andrew looks so mad.
Wait, hang on.
I'm gonna have to pull him back.
Of course, Billy D. Williams would love to have been in this.
Yeah.
You're way
He's
off.
Lando.
way
He's
off
gonna
base.
be in the movie. He's gonna
Wait,
be in
he's
Star
not
Wars.
Lando.
Billy D. Williams is
Oh,
Lando
I'm sorry.
Calrissian.
I'm sorry.
And
Never
he is
mind.
going to be in the next Star Wars movie.
Oh, is
Oh,
he?
okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
I'm still thinking.
And this has cemented that now Carl Weathers is officially a poor man's Billy D. Williams.
I don't think it's cemented anyway.
What do you mean?
No,
Wait,
they're two
what I'm saying,
separate entities.
they're
Yes,
two separate
two different
characters.
things.
He's
Yeah,
not playing.
Why
they
can't
both
you
get
just
in
be
the
happy?
bag.
Lando Calrissian.
Why can't you just be happy
But
for Action
Billy
Jackson?
D. Williams was always a poor man's Carl Weathers.
No,
Now both
That's
the
not-
men got
that's-
money.
that's
what it
way
is.
wrong.
Yeah,
That's
then
not true.
nobody's
He's
poor
off
anymore.
base.
that is 100% wrong. They're completely different actors doing completely different genres.
Of course,
Yeah.
they're completely
So
different
why is
actors.
they saying
that's
that
what
Billy-
any poor man's?
No, it's
anything.
not. You're using that term wrong, and I'd like you
Yeah.
to stop.
Please.
Damn.
No, I'm not.
You're
But
using
I
the
did
term
like
wrong.
How am I using the term wrong?
'Cause
How is
they-
the term used?
A poor man's means that they're a similar version. Like he's the poor man's version of. So they have similarities.
Yeah.
They are two completely different actors doing two completely different styles.
You see
He's
the
not the
violence?
poor
You
man.
don't know. You don't even know. You're
You
just
you can play that
bandwagoning with
you
him.
can play
You
that
don't even
card all
know.
you want, but I'm completely on
You
his
didn't
side
even
about
know
it.
that he was Lando.
Y'all gotta fight.
You don't. You're just
See?
bandwagoning.
I did know. I thought you were calling fucking Carl Weathers' character Lando.
You see
That's
the-
what I thought you meant.
Do you see the anger and animosity Star Wars causes?
Damn.
See, fucking
Star Wars should be canceled.
Andrew.
It should
Yeah,
be
yeah,
canceled,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
This is
cancel,
toxic.
yeah, definitely. I'm offended.
You know what?
Yeah.
You are
Triggered.
not making me a Fandalorian of Mandalorians. Thank
All right,
you.
but
you have just
before this.
you have just
Tip your waitresses. I will see you next week.
Proud of you.
But wait,
I back it.
you've just
Kurt
invalidated
go?
everything that you've said.
where did Kurt go?
Man, Kirk is
He's
out.
done. He's done. He's done.
What? How do you transition?
I'm
Cullen?
gonna transition like this.
Okay.
So I was watching this show.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm paying attention to it. Again, it's my first time watching Star Wars. I want you guys to be sure about this because I told Andrew, I was like, yo, look, you want me to watch Star Wars or you want me to watch Watchmen? And he was like, Star Wars.
Watchman?
Whatever.
You got to stop saying watch, man.
Okay.
Makes me
So-
itch.
So I spend the time and say, I'm going to watch both of them. So I watch it. I say, yo, Andrew, man, I never seen no Star Wars before. Am I going to get it? He was like, nah, it's going to be good because we need that perspective. So I said, let me bring the perspective, Lou. Right?
Bring a perspective.
I didn't know what I was asking for.
And now I'm like, I'm preparing my mind to see weird creatures, people
And that's what you
in
got,
different
though.
colors and stuff like that. And I turn on the show, Lou, and I'm like, wow, this looks amazing.
And the sound is amazing, too.
The sound, Lou, is amazing. Todd, it's amazing. But then they get to talking, and then it all falls apart. He gets a square thing, and they make it into a half a shield for one shoulder. It's like, well, what's the significance of this? Like,
But see, but the way I guess we view it, or more so you, because you have more of like a you're shitting on it kind of. So I want to know what, like Andrew sees gold in it, but you see a pile
you
of
see gold
shit.
in it, Andrew?
He likes Mandalorian, right?
No, but
Like,
do you
like
see
the show?
gold in it?
No, I have not given an opinion.
Okay,
Oh,
but do you
my
see
bad.
gold in it?
I
Do you
assume,
see-
my bad.
Do you
I
see
assume.
gold in it?
Yes, with caveats. But
Ooh,
but
he's hitting
but
with the caveats.
compared
I don't know what a caveat is.
It's a caveat.
compared to
I never had one of those.
compared to your opinion, it was Citizen Kane to me. Like compared
No
to your,
way.
we are so far on different pages.
That's why I'm confused. I'm like,
Okay.
how do you?
So you like the writing?
Yeah.
You like the transitions?
The very Star Wars.
Yeah, no. So
transitions.
that's what you mentioned that you were like something about a TV transition. I didn't know what you meant.
Okay.
But after I watched it, I realized what you're talking about, and
Yep.
those wipes.
Yep.
That's a Star Wars signature. All the movies have that. It's a signature for the series.
Got it.
It's very purposeful. It wasn't like a cheap thing. Star Wars is known for having those cheesy wipes.
I didn't know.
So what's the caveats?
So I really liked it. You really liked it too.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
I really liked it, and everything that everything you're saying
Yeah.
is bad.
It's great.
Number one, your opinion is kind of invalid a little bit because what you're saying is that you just don't like science fiction, or you don't like space operas. You don't, I mean, Star Wars isn't really science fiction. It's more fantasy, but it's got science fiction-y stuff to it. Aliens
Can you
and being
explain
in space.
real quick in Twitter characters the difference between science fiction and fantasy?
Science fiction isn't about aliens and space. Science fiction is about looking at the world around us societally and technologically, and then speculating on where it will be in X amount of years. So that's what science...
Based on technology, like the growth of technology.
Based on technology and the way that society and culture is. It's looking forward and saying, this is how things are going to be in the future. That's what science fiction is supposed to be.
This kind of feels like science fiction.
And so there's two different versions of science fiction. There's hard sci-fi or speculative fiction, which is the purest version of science fiction. And then there's science fiction or sci-fi that is a little bit softer on its definition. And it's more about like, oh, this is about the future and it's about space and aliens. And it's just a little bit more soft in what it means.
Yeah, yeah.
And Star Wars, especially the originals, the episode, the first three, the episodes 4, 5, and 6, those they're science fiction in as far as they take place in space and they're about aliens and laser blasters and robots.
Okay.
But in terms of genre, in terms of the story, they're more fantasy epics or westerns because they are about the hero's journey.
Okay.
So
I could tell by
so
the
they're
3-4
more
shots.
they're more like Odyssey, like Homer's Odyssey, or they're just more adventure stories. They're about a hero overcoming the hero's journey and saving the princess and defeating the villain, the black-hatted cowboy, that kind of stuff. So
it's kind of right. It's kind of both.
it is kind of both.
Okay.
It has science fiction elements to it, and also I think that the way purists get into like the technicalities of genres, I think it's a little meaningless. People just get stuck on definitions, and stories are stories, and they can have different elements of different genres, and it doesn't really matter. The Mandalorian, while it has those science fiction elements, it is purely a spaghetti western. It's a spaghetti western. And a spaghetti western is basically back in the 60s and 70s at the height of the popularity of American westerns, the old John Ford style, man's man American westerns. Over in Italy, there was a bunch of sort of B movie directors that saw the popularity of those films in Italy, and they thought, oh, we can make westerns like that, and we can make them for super cheap, and we can present them as if they're American westerns, and then we can make a ton of money. And so the way that they did that was that they cast American actors. So that's why Clint Eastwood is in a lot of them, because they just got American actors to come over. They were joint American-Italian productions, and they had just kind of a more cynical Italian sensibility to them. So whereas the American westerns, the John Wayne movies, were all about men like going out to pasture, basically.
Okay.
It was the John Waynes of the world being like, I'm from an old time where the way that justice was at the end of was at the barrel of a gun, and everything I wanted I took by shooting somebody.
Got it.
And now the world has kind of evolved a little bit more, and now I'm kind of an anachronism. So it's all about me learning to like retire, basically.
Okay.
That was what westerns were. Spaghetti westerns were about the futility of life. They were about existentialism. They were about God is dead. They were about the world is meaningless chaos. I mentioned this before. My number one favorite movie is Back to the Future. My second favorite movie is Terminator 2. My third favorite movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Sergio Leone.
Oh, the names in the beginning.
These movies were about a unnamed gunslinger roaming through a chaotic, desolate, dystopian landscape that was the Wild West, and grappling with his existence. And the movies were very kind of like, they were very open and silent and contemplated, and the pacing was very slow and deliberate, and there wasn't a lot of talking. So The Mandalorian takes a big note from that. And so number one, you're talking about the nerdiness of it, and what you're just talking about is that it just takes place in the Star Wars universe, and there's a bunch of like weird alien names and
jargon.
And the way and the reason for that, the whole reason for that is because in that original Star Wars movie, the first one, A New Hope, it was actually a very low budget film.
Yeah.
It was an indie film. George Lucas, in order to make the world feel much bigger and make it feel like a living universe, he injected it with all of this jargon and all of this backstory and people speaking different languages. And, some characters will like be speaking English and talking to a character that is speaking some made up language, and they can understand each other. And then there's the cantina scene where they go into this bar and there's all these different weird random aliens, and some of them are reptilian things, and some of them are just like weird furry creatures, and some of them are little robots, and some of them are little puppets or whatever. And that whole thing was, he was building a world and making it feel large and lived in on such a small budget.
Okay.
That's what Star Wars is.
Do you feel like Mandalorian feels lived in?
Yes, to a certain degree, and yes, to a certain degree, it's totally a spaghetti western. The show, it has that pacing, that silence, that starkness, that breathing room, and that deliberate pacing. It's all there. These are all, you know, it's a combination of that frame of reference of like the signature Star Wars feeling and then the signature feeling of a spaghetti western that have sort of been brought together and coalesced. And they actually fit very well together because those original Star Wars movies were westerns also.
Now, typically I don't have an issue with timing. You know, like when Tyler said he hated Drive, I was like, whoa, all right. But this time around, it starts off very strong. It does. Visually, timing, the editing is strong. It's strong. The shot of them walking outside, where you see it from the side, and we're tracking it, and they're walking, and you see the. I'm not sure if it was snowing or you just see this world of white all around them. It's very visually eye-catching, eye-popping, and refers back to westerns because it's shot exactly like one. However, it's like they gave the ball to Steph Curry. You don't know what I'm talking about, but they gave the ball to Steph Curry with 10 seconds left, which means that the guy who's typically going to drain the three, when they back him in the corner, he just can't do it. And that's what it felt like. It felt like they gave it to the master to make this, and he just couldn't sink it. That's what it felt like watching it.
I mean, I feel like you're walking back your statements a little bit from this was the dumbest nerd
it's still trash.
bullshit I've ever seen.
Be sure, Todd Pod, be sure to catch my face when I say this. This show is garbage. But in trash, there's always something worth something.
I don't think it's trash.
I think it's garbage.
I loved it.
Personally think it's garbage.
My criticism of it is as somebody who loves these movies, these spaghetti westerns, and the idea of doing a spaghetti western Star Wars show is, very much up my alley. I actually thought that they should have taken it further. Like, I thought it should have been even pushed further into being a Western because it has all those tropes and all those things, like the town, because that whole thing at the end when they raid the city and kill all those, like, that's pure Western. That's like the final showdown in a Western when the gunslinger and his partner, they're going back to the city to fight the corrupt sheriff. But it just felt so briefly touched upon. It's like, it felt like somebody being like, here's this trope, let's give you a little taste of that. Mm-hmm. Here's this trope, let's give you a little taste of that. Like, they didn't live in these as much as I wanted them to. Like, I wanted to see that, like, there's the town, and then, like, he goes to the town and he meets the sheriff, and the sheriff is this evil dude, and then, like, he meets, like, and then he leaves and he goes, and then he comes back to have the final showdown. Like, I wanted to see those tropes lived in more, and I felt like the show just kind of like gave you tastes of them.
Maybe they're trying to grow it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like the way that a spaghetti western works is like it starts off slow like that, and then throughout the movie it just gets more and more like engaging, and you feel it as a western more. And I think we're just in the first 2 minutes of an entire series, basically. Yeah. As a movie.
You're right, but it's coming from somebody. I mean, obviously, maybe I'm being a little impatient, but like maybe this is just me. Like, I understand that this is not gonna be for everybody, but like watching the episode, I liked it a lot, but there was just a part of me that was like, this doesn't quite fill the hole for me. If we're talking about like a throwback to a spaghetti western, this just doesn't fill the well for me. This like fills a little bit, maybe halfway.
I mean, season 1 will end with him walking into the sunset, and you're gonna feel real fulfilled.
He might take his helmet off too.
Yeah,
Do you know who plays him?
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal.
Damn, man, you gotta hide Pedro's face, man.
That's the tragedy there. Just hiding Pedro Pascal in
I was waiting for him to take that thing off, but nah.
So yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked pretty much every part of it. I felt like the part where he trained to ride the blurg.
That's what that is?
The part, yeah, it's called the blurg.
I thought it was a fish with legs. That's what I thought it was.
I feel like the part where the Nick Nolte character, Kuil, I feel like the part where he trained him like to write it, I thought that part was kind of didn't need to exist. Like, they could have just skipped that. Like,
he didn't train him either.
Well, he was just like, get on it and don't let him intimidate you, and then he like tries a couple times and then he masters it, and I just felt like that whole sequence was just unnecessary.
Yeah,
Like
it was obviously what they were gonna do.
Yeah.
All right, just love it.
Hold on. Do you feel like this is something somebody who has no like premise or like Star Wars before could just jump into and watch?
Yeah,
I was lost when I was
said
watching.
No
like
clue.
I think you guys are confusing two things. You guys are confusing like being confused because you needed to have watched Star Wars to understand these things with just I think what you guys are experiencing is that you just don't like it. Like you don't like you don't like the science fiction techno jargon and things like that. Like it's just not up your alley. Like you don't like a show with a bunch of weird aliens talking a bunch of different languages and then like referencing a bunch of techno jargon of like I just think you guys don't like it. But and that's what you're misconstruing as like I didn't get it. It must be because I haven't seen Star Wars. But
I've seen Star Wars like when I was younger.
You don't need to have seen Star Wars to get this. I think what you're experiencing is that you just don't like it.
I think I went in with like I seen Star Wars before when I was younger, and I liked R2D2 and I forget the name, like the gold.
C-3PO.
Yeah, so I felt like I like those characters, and like when I seen those like the previous movies of Star Wars, I liked it. It was cool, it was entertaining. But this felt more like a deep dive into a different culture, like nerd culture in a way, and like nerd, like not nerd in a bad way, but more so like you got to be into this world of like aliens and robots and like really care for like the characters and then like this world that somebody created. So for me, the show felt different from like the movies that I've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to just like that type of storytelling and those type of characters, but I don't think you need to know anything about Star Wars to have enjoyed the show.
You know, too, when it comes to shows, they have time. They have time to give you the world in which people live in. So in the movie, they have to pump things out to fill the movie within 2 hours. So you don't always get the opportunity for them to do a deep dive into who these people are, how they talk, and this, that, and the third. This movie, this show is, they got time. I mean, it's not even conventional timing because the show, another thing I noticed is it's not 42 minutes. It's not 22 minutes. It's like 38 minutes or something like that, right?
Would you give it a second chance, given that what you just said? Like, you need time for it to grow. Would you watch 2 or 3 episodes of Mandalorian? Because I might check it. I might go back and rewatch this one just to be like, all right, let me watch this with different eyes.
I'm going to watch it, Lewis. But it's going to be bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch it again, I would just I would not go into it just being like, oh, like I need to understand what these references are or what these characters are. You don't need to understand any of that. Like any Western, they're shrouded in mystery. You don't know what anything is. You don't even know what the main character's name is. He has no identity. He's just a blank slate.
See, I thought I was missing out on that. I don't know his name. Maybe other people who like are familiar with it know.
And
Mando.
And I feel like
it's Mandy.
they mapped the Mandalorian over a traditional spaghetti Western hero so well in that way because it's the same kind of character. He's he comes from this once proud ancient warrior race that has been like all but wiped out and extinct. They've gone underground. There's very few of them left. And yeah, I just thought it was a good mapping over the archetype of a spaghetti Western. But for me personally, I wish it was just pushed a little further, but I understand why they didn't do that.
Yeah, they didn't put the meatballs in.
But yeah, all in all, I really enjoyed it. I liked that ending siege. I loved IG-11. I was tricked by the trailer into thinking that it was IG-88, and I got super excited, but it was a different bounty hunter droid model, he was still a great character. I give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Really? That's kind of low than what I thought you was going to give it.
I was going to give it a 7, but...
Yeah, I thought you were going to give it an 8.8.
No.
Nah, too high. I'm going to give it a for the purposes of this great production. The costumes, the characters, the post-production, which I was a big fan of, the coloring, all that stuff. But then me thinking that the story is complete, I'm going to give it about a 5. Because it was so strong at one point and so not strong somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7. It was really nice to watch. I think it really held true to the spaghetti western form, and I'm not super into Star Wars, but it felt like a Star Wars movie or Star Wars asset to me.
You guys just don't understand growing up, as Tyler and I did.
Yeah.
2 young boys without a real solid father figure in our lives.
Ooh. My dad. No, I'm gonna cancel that one right now. My dad watches this. I love you, Dad. You were real. He showed me all the westerns. So I was in.
I had a dad too.
No, yeah, my.
I had a dad, but he wasn't into like westerns. And, like,
no, I think.
wait.
Andrew's right.
What was Andrew gonna say though? He didn't even finish.
Sorry.
I was going to say that as a kid, my dad and my grandpa were really into westerns, and it was always a way. It was always like the only way for me to connect to them.
You're gonna have to show Eve this show.
Yeah.
But I mean, mine was kind of like that. It was just a way. I knew my dad really enjoyed them, and he always wanted me to watch them with him, so I watched them and ended up really liking them. It was, I just wanted to do things my dad did because it made me closer to him.
Lou, your number?
So I give it probably like a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like
It's
it.
a cool show.
Gold painted trash.
Kirk quit the podcast.
The podcast.
Last 2 stories before we wrap up really quick. Voice actor Peter Cullen is going to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award for his voice acting career from the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences. If you don't know who Peter Cullen is, most famously, he is the voice of Optimus Prime from Transformers. And he's distinctive in that he's basically been the voice actor for Optimus Prime since the beginning of the Transformers, and he's done the voice for every version of the Transformers. Wow. So he has the distinction of having voiced Optimus Prime in the original 1980s Transformers cartoon, the movie, the Transformers cartoon movie that came out in the 80s, all the way up until voicing Optimus Prime in the Michael Bay live action movies. Even as recently as Bumblebee, he was Optimus Prime in Bumblebee. Yeah, so hats off to you, Peter Cullen. Last story, obviously in response to the major release and success of Disney Plus, Netflix has inked a major deal with Nickelodeon for a run of exclusive content. Nickelodeon and Netflix have announced that they're teaming up to produce new films and TV series based on Nick characters, as well as bring more existing Nick content to Netflix.
The content they create together, Netflix could have for like forever? Or is it kind of like once their deal is over, Nickelodeon can go, all right, peace?
There might be something like that, but for the time being, these are going to be things developed exclusively for Netflix.
All right, let's say right now, is Cartoon Network coming out with their own streaming service, or are they going to Netflix? Or Hulu? Oh, no, Hulu's not. Hulu. Are they going to Amazon?
I don't think they'll create their own
Cartoon Network stuff would be on HBO Max because Cartoon Network is owned by Turner, that is owned by AT&T, that also owns Warner Brothers, and also owns Warner Brothers owns HBO. So
now I'm sad about capitalism.
Cartoon Network and HBO are all under the banner of the Warner Media Group.
Got it.
Which is AT&T.
Yeah.
So you're saying they would never partner up with Jeff Bezos?
No. Any Cartoon Network stuff would be on HBO Max.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, there you have it.
Netflix and Nickelodeon today announced that they have formed a new multi-year output deal to produce original animated feature films and television series, both based on the Nickelodeon library of characters, as well as an all-new IP for kids and families around the world. And obviously, the play here is Nickelodeon knows that they're not big enough and they don't have enough content to have their own streaming service that could in any way compete with Disney Plus. And Netflix is starting to get a little scared because it's like, oh shit, like we used to be
top dog.
We used to be top dog, and by default, anybody would bring their stuff to us, whether it's licensing or original content. Now they have to start clamoring for recognizable IP. So this makes a lot of sense for them to be like, let's just basically team up and turn Netflix into essentially Nickelodeon streaming service.
Right. Are they going to be charging us more for this?
Probably.
That's what I'm worried about. But I do see is like, I don't think people are going to want to go to Disney with their IP. Like they're not going to want to sign it over. Disney's not going to let them have it without having a larger piece of it than most people would. And I think Netflix is going to get a lot of that business.
What are two different companies?
Huh?
They're two different styles of company.
Disney and Netflix? I just
Yeah.
mean the streaming service. Like he said that they're going to be like looking for more new stuff. And I don't think people who have a fresh new idea are going to take that to Disney to stream because they'd have to give it to Disney to make it a proper
Yeah, I mean,
that goes on
Disney is basically. I mean, the move with Disney Plus is basically like, okay, we're Disney. We obviously everybody needs to have their stuff on streaming services because that's just how things are now.
Right.
We have so much content that we could make a lot of money off of having this stuff on streaming. But why work with a different streaming service
Right.
when we have enough content to have our own? We are such an institution. We have such a large library of IP. Let's just make our own streaming service.
Yep.
Yeah.
Netflix is its own streaming service, and they are, in and of themselves a platform. So they don't have that history of IP.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon has the history of IP, but
Just not as
it's
much.
not as big.
Right.
So it's just a perfect symbiotic relationship of like, we'll give you the size of our install base and our name recognition as a streaming service. You give us your history of IP and your name recognition as a nostalgic IP, and we'll together we will equal the sum of Disney Plus's parts.
Plus, you have to remember. I'm sorry, Luke. You have to remember that Disney's doors are closed. Netflix doors are wide open.
What do you mean by Disney's doors are closed? They're not accepting anything?
Yeah, Disney is all about developing Disney content.
Bingo.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's going to keep. I think what Disney has now is going to be kind of what they keep, and they're going to have to spend a lot of money to get newer ideas in their streaming service. When Netflix is really just able to go, here's some money, do what you want, and it's more things for people to watch on our platform.
Well, what I mean by that is anybody can make a movie and then put it on Netflix. Anybody.
Right.
But not everybody can make a movie and expect to put it on Disney Plus. That's what I mean by that.
Right, and yeah, but what I mean is if people do make something and Disney wants it and Netflix wants it, like it's something that could be a Disney property in itself, like Boss Baby or something like that. I don't know who made Boss Baby, but like
DreamWorks.
Oh well, okay. But I mean
So that'd
something
be on
of that nature.
In fact,
and
there's a Boss Baby show. No, there's a Boss Baby show on Netflix.
Really?
Yeah, there is. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is like people are going to be less inclined to go, Disney, here's my idea for a Disney show instead of
They don't
Netflix,
really
here's
need
an
that.
idea for my show.
They don't really need that because Disney has that installation where they could just walk down the hallway and just say, hey, this is what we're doing. And their internal team can handle that compared to Netflix, whose doors are wide open. That, yo, if you want to make your own movie and bring it to us, we'll slap a Netflix original label on it. If we want to make our own thing, we can spend money, send it to another production company. They'll make it. We'll put a Netflix original label on it.
I think
You can
Netflix
make-
is fine.
You know what I mean? You can make your own thing and say, I don't want a Netflix original label on it, and then they lease it from you for 2 years. Compared to Disney, it's just like everything is in house. We're not. You don't have to send anything to us. We can make it already.
Right.
You know, and if they want it, they'll just buy it.
But I think that doesn't that limit Disney in terms of like the type and feel of content they have. I feel like Netflix is kind of like it's more well rounded.
Yeah.
I mean, Disney has a pretty well-rounded portfolio. They have
True.
they have
They're like smart guy. and
Disney
everything.
stuff. They have
ESPN.
Marvel stuff. They
True.
have Star Wars
True.
stuff.
That is true.
They have
Hulu.
ESPN. They
Wait,
have-
but is
they
that part
have,
of Disney Plus? The
all of
Hulu
it
and
is.
ESPN and all that?
Well,
All of it
no,
is.
Hulu is basically the way that they've delineated it is like Disney Plus is where they put all the stuff that they want to be represented as Disney, and then everything else is going to go on Hulu. Anything where they're like, we don't want this representing Disney necessarily, it's going to go on Hulu.
You
And
can
you
get a
pay-
Hulu, ESPN, Disney Plus package right now, not an ad, for $12.99.
That's pretty smart. Yeah,
Yeah.
Don't
Bundle
do
package.
it.
definitely not gonna do
How
it.
often do you watch ESPN, guys?
Not at all.
Yeah.
But I will point out that despite the fact that I have no interest in sports, and to me, when people talk about sports stuff, it sounds exactly the same as when people are talking about Star Wars stuff to you. I do not go, oh, this is just a bunch of bullshit jock stuff. I let you have your thing and enjoy it and don't criticize it.
I have to criticize it. I'm on this podcast.
But I mean, that jock stuff should definitely be criticized. Like football should not be around anymore.
Tell the truth. See?
Tell the truth.
You tripping, Tyler. Why not? Man, come on.
Concussions alone, man.
You should talk about this a little.
We'll talk about that after.
And then the last story, the last part of this, it's the same thing, but just we'll end on this. Secondarily, it was announced, I think today, because I actually added this today when I saw it, that there is a live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show in development officially. And that's notable or part of the story because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is owned by Nickelodeon. So this is likely going to be a Netflix exclusive show. And in case you didn't realize, either from past episodes or maybe if you're watching the video version of this and look at this table, I like me some Ninja Turtles.
A lot of Ninja Turtle stuff here. Yeah, look at this green.
Ninja Turtles are cool. That's not a Ninja Turtle.
That's Slimer. And while I hated the first Ninja Turtles live action movie produced by Michael Bay, the second one, Out of the Shadows, was actually not bad.
There you have it.
Huh.
All right. Okay. Well,
that on that.
Thank you for listening, everybody. If you like the show and you haven't already, and you think that the show deserves it, I would encourage you to go and give us a rating, a 5-star rating, hopefully, and a little blurb about what you liked about the show. If you have a friend that you think might like this show, feel free to share it with them. And ask them to subscribe. You should subscribe as well. I didn't mention that. If you have any questions or want to make any comments that might be read on the show by us, feel free to email us at nostalgicastpod@gmail.com. And if you are interested in supporting the show other than listening in a more financial way, you can go to our Facebook page, the official Nostalgia page on Facebook. If you just type in Nostalgia, that's it. And you can find the little Become a Fan button, and you can support the show by paying $4.99 a month to support us. And we will be releasing bonus content that is only available to fans, so you will be able to get your money's worth of original bonus content not available to anybody else. You can also follow that page to see all the nostalgic content we post on a daily basis. You can follow @Nostalgia on Instagram for more nostalgic content.
That's that on that.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.